Our event today, coming to meet the African Diaspora running for office in Maryland. My name is Samuel Sarafel. I'm the founder of Monster Collabs. We're based here in downtown Silver Spring, working to support the growth of entrepreneurs, both for-profit and non-profit, with the focus on African diaspora. We're happy to have everybody come together on really is a short notice. I think it's a testament to the interest level and demand and size of the community that we have here. So my job for today is to be the MC, and so I'll do it very briefly. First, I want to introduce a special guest that we have with us today, a longtime community advocate and person who has been a center point between our community and the county government, Mr. Daniel Koroma. Just a quick blurb from his bio. He's currently the Business Liaison Officer in the Office of the County Executive for Montgomery County. That's sort of, again, playing more of an interface role, this time looking specifically around economic development. And I'll go a little off script. I've known him from the African Affairs Advisory Group, where he's been really, I think, from the time that he worked to do this for free to the time that he was actually a staff member getting paid and ongoing, a thought leader and a convener, a supporter of the local community. And I'm very proud to have met him and know him till today. I want to welcome him to make some few remarks.
Sure. Thank you. How's everybody tonight?
Great.
Amazing, and I'm delighted to be here. It's an amazing event, but more importantly, I think, as Samuel said, thank you to IO Spaces and Mansico Lab for putting this together. This is clearly showing the maturity of the community, the fact that we can come together very quickly. It means that we can take collective actions. So when 94% of businesses in the county have less than 50 employees, you know small business matters, right? And that's why not only in discussions like this, that we have into perspective what is the makeup of small businesses. But beyond that, in terms of industry type, legal designation, how do we make up the demographics of small businesses? Who are the people who take this risk? Who are these people who invest their life savings to ensure that they could hire somebody, to ensure that they could provide a space like IO Spaces or like Mansico? And these are the champions. And that's why, as the Business Liaison Officer for the county government, I am delighted to be here. I go to big meetings, I come to small meetings, I go to medium meetings, but I'm more happy to be in spaces like this, especially as a diasporan myself. We have come a long way. Our stories were not being told in the correct way. But the journey we've taken so far, and with the many diasporans who are running, I believe the narrative has started changing. Just to put into perspective, and finally, in the history of the United States, Maryland, now we have the most first and second generation Africans running for office. We have the most first and second generation African women running for office. So when we talk about diversity, it matters that we have different voices, that have different experiences at the table, so that when we start to talk about policies and laws that impact businesses, you can talk to someone who have a conversion of experience, not only here locally, but also internationally. So again, thank you so much, and to the candidates, I mean, I'm so proud of every one of you. Continue to do the great work. Remember, there are many people that are behind you. There are many people who are looking up to you. And so I'm really happy the way these candidates are running their races. And to me, that's what matters, because our integrity is not for sale, right? We have to make sure we keep our integrity intact. The election will be over soon, right? There's a kiss and make up something coming up. But the point is that, again, at the end of the day, are we being able to tell our story as a diaspora? That's the point, so that others look at us and say, wow, there's great maturity in this community. So thank you everyone for coming. Thank you to the candidate. Thank you to Leslie and Samuel for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you. So much, Daniel. Now I'll introduce our co-moderators. I'll start off with...
It's a place that is very welcoming for people who are trying to start business, move their families, education-wise. And the primary reason why we chose Silver Spring to start IO Spaces was, like, when I moved here 3 years ago, I needed a space to meet other entrepreneurs like myself, and I couldn't find that. And when I went to VC, the space that existed did not necessarily understand the cultural biases that I have. Simple things at lunch, right? I have my fish, I want to put it into the right, and I love fish, right? But you get this little snarky remarks you get from your colleagues, and as much as they're innocent, they do hurt, right? And IO Spaces, the idea for us was to make sure everybody, regardless of race, culture, religion, feels welcome. And today we have about 150 companies in the space, all from different backgrounds. We have 2 or 3 companies that have actually raised funding, which was a big thing for businesses. Background businesses are not able to raise funding as we would expect, but we've seen a lot of progress in the last year. And this year is really special, and I think speaking with a lot of the community people in the space, for I think African Black people is a really special year. Women, Black people, and African.
Because we are talking about Africa, so maybe to give us what attaches you to Africa as you're answering the questions, just so we can internalize that as well, and also attach you to the continent, whether that be country or work or, you know, whatever passion. So for the first question is, Montgomery County is really unique in which 15%, actually over 15% of its foreign-born immigrants are from Africa. So if you do have African-born immigrants or non-African-born immigrants, just Africans in general, in your vision, how are you going to incorporate them moving forward, or have you started to think about that?
So, start with Fatima. And also, before you start, please do give a brief bio about yourself. I do have your bio, but I really want you to tell the audience who you are, and everybody give a chance to talk about that before diving into the questions. Okay.
So it'll be the timeline, just so.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Yeah.
You're gonna tell him. I've been first before it. It's helpful if you know.
We'll give you a very big smile to tell you that this has been so great.
Let's start with that.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. My name is Fatima Tabari. I was born in Sierra Leone. I moved here at the age of 11, and I've been here ever since. So I grew up here in the U.S., in Florida specifically. I am an attorney. I practice immigration, special education, law, and I also work with nonprofits. So that has been my life. And I have spent my lifetime being an advocate, a community activist, and being a community organizer. And my focus has always been on our children. As a special education attorney, that is what I've done most of my life. So I want to take that to Annapolis, and that's why I'm running for office. As an African immigrant, as a child who came here as an immigrant, I had to learn to navigate between being an African when I go home and being an American child when I leave the house, and had to learn the difference. And that makes it a lot easier to do the work that I do. And my focus as far as Africans in Montgomery County and moving forward, I have already spent most of my life here in Montgomery County working for the immigrant community, working for the community at large here in Montgomery County to move things forward. Part of the work I've done has been to fight for initially what's called the Trust Act, which would have allowed the state of Maryland to put policy into place that says you cannot just stop a person and decide, oh, you look like you might be a danger, so we're going to search you, or we're going to ask you questions, and we're going to pick you up. Now it's called the SAFE Act at the state level. We're still fighting for the Trust Act here in Montgomery County, and we're hoping that the county council would pass it when the time comes, and we're hoping that it will be done before the next session starts, but we don't know. So those are the things I'm already working on as an immigration attorney. I've done many legal sessions, legal clinics, pro bono workshops for our communities, And that is what I want to take to Annapolis. And that is what my focus is as far as moving forward, making sure that we're educated about issues pertaining to us in this community, making sure that when information is available, we get that information. There are programs, there are services that we have here, and we always hear the anthem that we don't avail ourselves of these programs. But my question always is, do people know? And if you're disseminating information, how are you disseminating it? Are you doing it in such a way that the people you say you're targeting are actually receiving it? Or are you using a different process that does not get to them? So those are the things that I'm working on and moving forward on. And hopefully I'll get into Annapolis and put that into practice at the state level.
Thank you very much. Will?
Thank you. Thank you, Famata. I'm Will Jawando, first generation Nigerian American. Dad came to this country in the 70s on the tail end of the Biafran Civil War there in that country, and went to school like many people, found a school in Kansas, met my mom, and they moved to Silver Spring, to the Long Branch area where I was born and raised. And similar to Famata, the same, trying to navigate not being called an African booty scratcher at school, and figuring out what that meant. I had the layered on complexity of being biracial as well, and what that meant. In a community that is, you mentioned in your question, over 15% African, 33% of the people born here are from another country. If you add their children, like me and others, you get up to 44% of the county who's either from another country or first generation. Even despite all those numbers, we have yet to come full circle and fully integrate and understand. And I think in a lot of our structures and systems, to Famata's point, whether it be our governmental entities, our school system, how we deliver services, to catch up and do that in a good way for all people that are in our community. And I think the African community in particular, one thing that Famata didn't mention, which I'll mention, she, Daniel, and I, and others are co-founders of a group called the African Immigrant Caucus, which was created about 4 years ago to increase civic engagement and capacity within the African immigrant community, which is the largest. If you take the DC, Maryland, Virginia region, we have more African immigrants in this area than any other place in the country. We don't have elected officials. We don't have people on boards and commissions. Our voices aren't typically heard, but everyone in this room knows how many scholarship or cultural dinners or cultural organizations, we can fill rooms 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people. It's a sub-culture, and we've just been very narrowly focused. And there's cultural reasons from poor governments back on the continent and others, but there's been a benign neglect for our community to our detriment. And so we're trying to, as far as what I'm trying to do, I'm a civil rights attorney by training, work mostly on education policy and workforce policy and Obama White House, Department of Education, but also locally. We're trying to make sure we impart upon our community that you have to be engaged, you have to make your voice heard, and when you do that, whether it's through voting or showing up or having a rally or holding meetings like this and forums, you start to get people who are in decision makers to pay attention. That improves our quality of life, it improves our access to services, it improves the cultural competency you're talking about. So when we show up for a service, it's not just catered to particular immigrants, it's catered to everybody. So we still have some work to do, but I would say that is a big part of why I'm running, to make sure there's equal access for all folks in our community, but particularly our African immigrant community, which has not heretofore been represented the way it should be. So it's an important issue. You're smiling, so I'm going to stop.
So I think one of the interesting thing about what we're all saying is that there's more than a huge need for, I do believe, Africans and diasporans to pay the government, because some of those laws that get passed.
I live in Wheaton, and I'm running for Montgomery County Council at large. And like many African Americans, my history and my relationship to the African continent is actually one of disconnection and of trying to figure out how to connect with what it means to be part of the African diaspora in a way that is authentic, as someone who was born here in the United States and whose connectivity to that aspect of my roots is very, very remote. And that's a real struggle. It's a struggle that I actually deal with on multiple parts of my heritage because I'm Afro-Latina. And the Latina side comes from my grandfather, a black man born in Honduras and immigrated here to the United States, but who came to New York and who had a son in the 1950s in Bronx, New York, when being Hispanic, being Latino was not a popular thing to be. So there's actually a generational disconnect as well for me with my Latina heritage. And that wasn't something that I realized was even a part of my identity until I was a teenager. And all of a sudden realized, oh, wait a minute, that's actually part of my heritage too. So that experience of how we understand the variety of faces of the African diaspora, and then how we actually bring relationship and healing to our communities, because of so many of these different experiences, we often don't understand that we are sharing so much of the same, that we share in the same fate here in the United States. And there's so many divisions that come up, particularly around immigration, and how folks who were born here in the United States view folks who have immigrated here from Africa, how folks even who immigrated here and were able to go through a process legally and have that be easier for them, view folks who are still struggling with their status in that process. And the narratives that we take on about each other that ultimately divide us from one another instead of helping us to stand in solidarity with one another. And that's actually what I aim to do as an organizer and as a political candidate, is to help us understand ourselves as one community of people that has to stand with each other to fight for the things that we need. Whether that is fighting for deportation defense for folks who are here, who are contributing to our communities, and who are seeking to resolve issues of their status. Whether that's fighting to make sure that we have political representation, and that in our political representation, we are engaging each other's voices and not just sort of saying there's just one voice that we'll allow to be there. Or whether it's fighting to make sure that in all the various ways that we want to participate in the economy, that we can do so and that we support each other. So I'm very excited to be part of this conversation.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am so blessed and humbled to be sitting on this panel right here. My name is Kenge Maliki Dogo Flood. I immigrated from what was then Zaire and is now the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1989 with my family. Now, so that's my connection. My priorities for running for County Council District 5 is to make sure that we are viewing the community with respect for who they are as individuals, and viewing our community as a whole as an asset to this Montgomery County district rather than a burden. And that is a change that I would like to make in the conversations around our community, because there are many times, even in budget conversations, about the burdens of the diversity in terms of the services that are being provided to this wide variety of people in our county, especially in the district. So my aim is to change perceptions and to change those perceptions so that we can move forward as a county and we can actually build on the diversity that we have. Coming from Congo, it was right before the war started, a few years before everything really erupted and the United States started looking at it. But one of my biggest issues has always been the perception of the economy and businesses towards African immigrants, towards the highly educated, very experienced community, in that with an accent, all of a sudden you don't view somebody as intelligent, or the fact that degrees don't come over. How does a doctorate does not translate to the United States doesn't make sense to me, especially in fields like medicine and science, where the human body doesn't change when you come over. So if there's a certification, someone should be able to take a certification versus having to start all the way over. So my aim is to change perceptions, and in changing those perceptions, we'll actually be able to build on the needs of the community and advance Montgomery County to be the high-ranking place to live, to be educated, and to do business as it is.
Oh, thank you. You still have time.
Yes, so I'll share. So my race is only with it's only 3 individuals in my race, and I believe that my election is going to be very key to this community because we have so many young people in this community. This is the largest concentration of African immigrants in the county is in District 5. And we actually have a large part of our community that lives in the northern part of the district that has very few access to transportation and resources, which hinders economic prosperity and growth. So I'm definitely looking to not just scratch the surface, but like pound it and make a change.
Thank you so much. And I just wanted to say again,
As much as I love this county, it's unfortunately not very pro-business friendly. From the county, the DLC, there's a sentiment which the county doesn't necessarily want to help businesses grow. That's a general sentiment across the board, even though Montgomery County has a huge amount of burning businesses, especially in the immigrant community. If your parents would build a restaurant back to back to back and each of them would get filled, right? You would see barber shops filled. And to me, one area I look into in terms of business is really high-level business. Is that we're having companies owned by communities that are in automation or in artificial intelligence, or we have companies that are doing IPOs that are raising millions of dollars. One thing I want to know is in terms of your agenda, what will be some of your key areas of focus to help this community find resources to grow and create sustainable businesses for themselves and for their families? I'm about to start with you.
Sure. Thank you for the question. I think you're right. The premise, I would agree with the premise that we have a bad reputation. And as with all reputations, some is warranted and some is not. But you can look at any measure of statistics of how many businesses. Daniel started us off with the great statistic that I think shocks a lot of people. 95% of the businesses in the county are under 50 people, 85% under 15. And so most of our folks are working there. But with that number, we have had very few net gain in the new businesses created, and we've had a lot of folks struggle to do that. If you look at the window time period from where you have the great idea and you're an entrepreneur, an innovator, and you want to start and you're trying to get capital together to when you start or open your doors, if it's a brick and mortar, we have a long window in Montgomery County, much longer than DC or Northern Virginia. And I think it's due to a few factors. One, when this community was envisioned, it was a 1950s bedroom community, suburb, and we still in many ways approach Montgomery County policy in the structure of government in that way. And we are in a transition from that idea to urban, suburban, and anytime you're doing those transitions, and the people who were here when it started were like, oh, hold on, that's not who we are. And that translates to a whole bunch of areas. But in the business area, I think it hurts, and in particularly, Jesse Jackson said when, America has a cold, black people have the flu. I think it hurts small and minority and communities of colors and immigrant businesses even more because you have challenges with the regulatory environment, right? So, understanding it, duplicative regulation, being able to navigate that process to your point of holding back information and just having a grasp of that can be very intimidating for someone. And add on a language barrier, add on, not being from this country, that gets pretty daunting. Two, access to capital is a problem for all small businesses, but in our county, you have to be really, really good to figure out how to navigate any bit of capital that's available for small businesses or MBEs. And I have a friend who started a brewery over here, and she worked at the Small Business Administration and was able to get $75,000 out of the county, but she had to use all her resources. So I think that's a problem. And then we don't have an entrepreneur-friendly, that's why IO Spaces, to give you a plug again, is just such a great concept and idea. We are not doing enough around incubation in high-demand fields, around providing that little bit of space, a little bit of capital. You don't have to, if you don't succeed, no big deal. We didn't spend a lot from the county perspective, but we've helped you. And I just was at Bethesda Green a couple of weeks ago. It's 10 businesses dealing in the environmental space. A couple of African Americans in there, actually an African, and maybe three out of the 10 work. But it's a great investment for the county. So we need to be doing that in more places around the county and being intentional about that. And so I think between the regulation, the capital, and just being innovative and incubator and the types of entrepreneurs we're supporting, that could go a long way in changing the culture. And you're smiling. So.
Okay, so all you have to do is look out the window, right? Step outside here, and what do you see? A lot of small businesses. And majority of them are immigrant-owned. That's our reality, right? This is Silver Spring. It's the hub of the small businesses in Montgomery County. And part of the problem, I think, has always been the accessibility for African immigrants, for other immigrants to really get over that bump that others can so easily get over. And some of the things that I believe needs to happen is not just the getting of the money, but knowing how to get that money, being educated at starting a business, right? I have a small law firm, solo practice, and to keep your head above water is extremely difficult because you get paid if you have work. It's not just working, but you only get paid if you get work coming to you. So I think in this case, especially with innovation, is to support programs that, like at Montgomery College, right? They have a tech program that I think needs to be more in the forefront, and where we can get that program, that information to our young Africans who want to be able to do this work and want to be able to build on their talents and make sure that they don't not just learn the actual skill, but learn how to build a business and how to get the resources and get that information. And that goes all hand in hand with what I was speaking about earlier. The information is there, but it's the access to that information that makes it very difficult for people to grow. And with the innovation that's going on, what you're doing here, what Samuel is doing around the corner, it really helps. And I think putting the two of you in the forefront would show that it's possible, that people can actually do it in this area. And I think it's key, because when you look around, all this construction that's happening down here, all this construction, there's nothing wrong with progress. But the issue is, will this progress lead to the dissemination of what has made this community what it is? The small businesses, the mom and pop shops, right? And not lose the environment that we have grown to love that brought us here to begin with. So that is what I think we have to look at closer and really focus on and work on building and making sure that at the end of the day, these businesses that have made us strong remain strong for us.
Thank you. Inge?
Well, prioritize are attracted to this community because of the personality, because of the character of the community. And so as we move forward, we need to ensure that there are protections in place so that we can maintain this character, so that we can protect the business owners that decided to base themselves here when they could have gone somewhere else. So my priority in ensuring that small businesses are able to thrive are when speaking in systems, okay? So that when I am elected as the District 5 County Councilwoman, I will set aside some time for my staffers to engage our community and our business owners so that they can register as vendors if they haven't already, so that they can access many of the opportunities that are available in the county. Now, on the state level, there is a lot of money also available there that we have to connect our business owners to. Now, if it's a matter of capacity building so that these small businesses are prepared to apply for a contract or to submit for an RFP, then we need to ensure that we do that. But in order for us to do that, you have to have someone that's already in office that has the voice where once you speak, the community says, oh, their ear is perked up a little bit. Like, what? There's an opportunity for me to expand my business? Okay, let me go and explore this information. And we haven't had that. We haven't had a council person in this seat that is willing to engage the community actively and be proactive in saying, this is available, let me help you grow your business. Because as we talk about the economic condition of Montgomery County, it's because we're not helping our businesses grow. So if we can increase some of the numbers of businesses that have 50 or less employees to being 51 to 100, then we'll continue to grow, we'll increase our tax base, people will earn what they deserve to earn, and we'll grow organically, not by just trying to attract someone else in that we're going to give all these incentives to. So we need to balance that out, but making sure that we grow organically by supporting our small businesses with information. That's my plan to ensure that we grow appropriately.
Thank you. Brenda?
So, IO Spaces is my home. This is the home of our campaign office. You can come visit it later. We're tucked right over there in the corner. And there's a reason for that, and it touches on a number of the things that my colleagues have said. The way that we discovered IO Spaces, we needed an affordable place to meet that was not our living room. And our team was expanding, and we needed to find some place where we could do that. And we discovered that this amazing company had affordable meeting space, which is really hard to find in our communities. And then we came in here and we discovered the vibe of this place and the fact that Mandela welcomes you when you walk into the door. It was like, this is amazing. And then we got to meet and talk with Leslie, and I saw that this is, other African folks leading on providing the kind of space that small businesses need, because running a campaign is running a small business, even for a limited time. And I said, this embodies everything that I believe about economic development and how it should happen here in Montgomery County. This is providing the supportive infrastructure that our businesses need, that our entrepreneurs need, to be able to test out ideas, to be able to grow their teams, to be able to receive connectivity and networking and technical resources. All of the things that we need to grow, and we are leading it. That's one of the things that I'm just so honored and proud to be a part of IO Spaces, because it is our community leading what it looks like to build out the small business infrastructure that we need across Montgomery County. What I want to see coming into office is to support the expansion of IO Spaces, because I know you guys are looking at that, the expansion of places like Mansa Collabs, and then to have even more folks building out these resources, building out others. I've worked with an organization called Crossroads Community Food Network that has created a community kitchen in Tacoma Park, Silver Spring, in order to be able to provide the kind of infrastructure that small food businesses need. We need many more of those kinds of resources. We need to be creative about access to capital. How can our county government provide patient capital through loans, through things like public banking, through engaging legislation that actually allows us as community members to directly invest in the businesses that we want to invest in, that teaches us how we can do things like entrepreneurial lending circles and cooperative fundraising. These are the things that we need to be doing to grow our economy from here, from the inside, from the people who are already here, who have the skills and talents and knowledge, and where we need to be focusing our resources on supporting ourselves, not on saying the way that we grow our tax base, the way that we grow our economy is to import other people, because what we do here doesn't have sufficient value.
Thank you. Thank you all for all those amazing remarks. So one of the things that really
Of how you are going to prepare the community for jobs for tomorrow, and also how you're going to create jobs for tomorrow. So we're talking about things like AI, machine learning, automation, medical innovations. If that's, I guess depending on where you are, if that's part of your vision at all. We can start with you, Kenge, because you look like you have something to say.
So I'm in preparing for the jobs for tomorrow. I really look at our youth and the educational opportunities that they have here in Montgomery County. There are great opportunities available in Montgomery County, but they're not necessarily available in East County. And for me, that's a problem, because that's where my children will be going to school, and that's where so many other students are already attending. And in order for us to allow our kids to compete once they graduate high school, to compete just to get to the college level, we need to create more experiential learning opportunities. And these experiential learning opportunities are available. However, it's a matter of, has someone sought out businesses that will allow the students to engage in these information technology opportunities or science and biotech. So my proposal is, if Montgomery County Public Schools doesn't have the funding to support teachers or additional opportunities for these experiential learning opportunities, let's go out into the communities. Let's seek the businesses that are willing to share such maybe a week at Paint Branch High School, or a couple of weeks of training and learning in Northwood or Blair. Blair has a lot, but regardless, for non-magnet students, these experiential learning opportunities will pique their interest, so maybe now they can look to be in a magnet program. So these programs are really going to be available to the schools, not necessarily the magnet programs, because we know that these programs, as great as they are, they tend to leave students who didn't test well to go into it, or if their parents weren't aware that they could enter that program, they're just kind of left in the pool with other students where these kids might be very talented and very intelligent and want to find those opportunities, but they don't know how. So, in preparing for the future, our youth, we have to focus on our youth. Now, I continue to hear the conversation that there's a lot of open positions in Montgomery County, high-tech jobs, but we don't have the skills. We don't have people with the skills. I disagree with that statement. I strongly disagree with that statement, because I know that we have intelligent, highly skilled people that are ready to be employed, but they may be overlooked because of their race, because of their nationality, or just because they don't know and have the connections to the people that need those positions filled. So it's really goes back to my changing the perceptions so that others can open their eyes to the opportunities that they have to employ residents of Montgomery County that are already skilled, that can fill those positions. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to cut in right now, I know a guy who owns a thing called iSpaces. You should talk to a few, schools and have them do some tours around here, just in case, some kids need to see what they can become.
And actually, we've done that. The county actually gave us a grant for $8,000 through the Innovation Lab to run 3D printing in the space. And we actually have 3D printers in the space. Again,
Advocate, that is always for me the first step. Education, education, education. That is key. And making sure that they have the access to this education that is needed. Making sure that they can afford the education that they need for this. And like Kenge says, I am, this is my last, I'm sort of done with the East County Citizens Advisory Board. And most of the reports that we get when they come to present about why people in East County, I live in White Oak, are now, they don't have jobs in the tech, they don't have jobs, and always it's the same narrative. We are looking for people, but we do not have people who are skilled. And I remind them, I know people who are skilled in tech. I know African immigrants who come here skilled in tech, but you're not hiring them. So my question is always, where are you going? when you're looking for people to fill these positions? Who are you actually looking for? Are you looking for somebody skilled, or are you looking for a certain demographic? Is that what you're looking for? Oh no, Ms. Berry, we're actually looking. I said, well, I am very in tune with the community, and this is the first I'm hearing of it, that you are looking for people to fill these positions. That means information is not going out to those who need to get that information. And so I always come back to the same thing, making sure that information is received by those who need that information. And some of the greatest ways to do that is to tap into communities or leaders in the communities like yourself who have access to tech to be able to get that to the young people who are looking for these positions. If we don't do that, then we're basically setting them up for failure. And we're pretending to ourselves that we're trying to help these young people attain jobs in tech. And I said it earlier, education, Montgomery College has a great tech program that I think we need to be able to funnel some of our kids to without them having to struggle to pay for these courses. And I think that's one of the major problems we have, having money to pay for school. It's very difficult. I am an attorney, he's an attorney. We still have our student loans. I've been practicing for the past 16 years. I'm still paying student loans. And my student loans were not even as high as what I hear people who went to Ivy League schools. And yet I'm still paying 16 years later after coming out of law school. That tells you a lot. And that is working as an attorney. Now envision someone coming out with a bachelor's degree and you're making $40,000, $50,000 a year in Montgomery County. You can't pay your bills, much less your student loans. So those are some of the things I think we have to seriously take into consideration. And at the state level, making sure that when policies are put in place, it can trickle down to the communities and make sure that when you put down policies on education, you're making sure that the students are protected, including those who are already there. I know they've done something to that effect, but for those of us who are still need to go back to do tech and things of that nature. So that's where I am.
Thank you very much. Will?
Sure, thank you. So I think government's at its best in policy. We're all trying to be a part of the government and help contribute to making policy when it sets the environment for innovation, right? And then provides capital to help that happen. Because government is not the innovator, right? And so I think things like we discussed earlier around the regulatory framework, around access to capital, around seed funding, small business loans, or incubators, those are all things that I would just emphasize here again, because I think it's important, and that are culturally competent and accessible to the points that have been underscored over and over again here. It doesn't, if you have it and no one can get to it, and there's blockades to it because of either language or intentional or unintentional, that's a problem, and we need, and I'll talk about that in a second. But so that's what I see, and because you can't anticipate, you can't anticipate what jobs are coming. The jobs that are here now, 10 years ago, people didn't know they were going to be here, especially the innovation of the internet. You can try to just create an environment where it's easier for people who are innovators and entrepreneurs to innovate and to do exactly what they should do, and then support it. And so that's my next point. We have to be much, much better here about identifying and supporting people who have good ideas. And particularly in this context, the immigrant community, people of color, the 44% who make up Montgomery County, the majority of people, and growing, that's heading in that direction even more, right? And so a couple years ago, the county took the economic development function out of the county and created the Montgomery County Economic Development Corporation. Their job is to go after big companies, and we can talk about that later, but also support small and medium-sized business owners and entrepreneurs that are seeking to start jobs or have good ideas. They have not done a good job on the latter. They've hired a couple people, one Latino outreach guy whose kind of job, he's a great guy, to deal with the immigrant community. Again, we are 44% of the population, right? So the whole approach to how do you support these folks who are innovators like you and others? And I'm glad you got a county grant because you probably worked hard to get to it, but I doubt someone has come to you and said, hey, let's sit down and see how we can make you more successful. And that customer service approach towards our folks that have great ideas needs to be more of a priority for the county government as a whole, because again, our role is to set the conditions for innovation, whether it be driverless cars or in ride sharing. As we try to solve the issues of transportation, I think there are great possibilities around innovation in that area and entrepreneurs. And another one is the green economy, as we retrofit and try to create jobs in that area. And then the last thing I'll say, just briefly, is the education piece. I created a program 2 years ago called Summer Rise, Real Interesting Summer Experience, and it was the first countywide career experience program for high school students. And we placed over 400 high school students, mostly kids of color, many immigrants, who had never had an internship in places like MedImmune, CVS Pharmacy, Pepco. And you saw the eyes just open up that there were these opportunities in their community that they could access. And so strengthening those things early on in the even middle school age and providing those opportunities has to be a strategic priority as well.
Thank you very much. And I think in terms of government support,
Graduate of Science and Technology, Marinette High School, as someone who started her career working in architecture and design and focusing on design computing and how that gets used in the architectural and design fields, I'm strongly supportive of making sure that we are much better represented in technological fields. At the same time, I really want to reframe this conversation and remind us what the jobs of the future are going to be. Because for all the technological innovations, we are not all going to turn into robots. We are still human beings. And one of the #1 jobs of the future that we are going to need here in Montgomery County, or 2 of them, is going to be early childhood care and education and elder care. These are critical jobs that we need in our county. But we are not talking about those as the jobs of the future. We are not preparing our young people for them. And in many cases, we actively think of them, not only outside of our community, but within our community, as lesser jobs that we do not want to direct our young people towards. Please think about that for a moment. We say that the care of our children and the care of our elders is a lesser job. We are going to need people, we are in desperate need of people in Montgomery County who will grow our food sustainably so that it does not destroy our planet and so that the food system that we have does not continue to make, in particular, our communities sick with diet-related diseases. We are going to continue to need people who are going to construct our buildings and make sure that all of the building systems within them are working. These are also the jobs of the future, and we must reframe the way that we understand our economy and what our economy is built on so that we do not perpetuate a narrative that says that the people who make everything around us work, who feed us and care for us and make sure that we survive as human beings, don't count as much as those who work on technology. I also want to name that we are denigrating ourselves because so many of the folks who work in our food system or who work in our care industries are us. So we are literally saying that the skills and the experience that we have and that we have grown over time and that we bring to our county are not as valuable, and we must stop saying that about ourselves. And we must also realize that we need to be the leaders in reframing what it is going to mean to live sustainably as human beings in the 21st century, in an era of climate change, in an era of increasing economic inequality, in an era of increasing social unrest. We need to be the leaders who are actually bringing healing and wholeness to our communities and draw on those aspects of our culture and traditions and not follow along the path of mechanization and dehumanization that has caused us to create an economy where we do not value any of the basic things that keep us operating.
Thank you so much for those remarks. I read something the other day that was saying, inherit our land from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children. And that's a really important reframing of what the future means, even in terms of, start with Kenya since you were the first to
So
speak.
final remarks.
Yeah, just 30-second final remarks, please.
So I am asking for your vote and for you to ask your friends to vote for me for County Council District 5. Because as we started the conversation, we're talking about the future. So in the next 4 years, what is the county, what is District 5 going to look like? Not just the demographic makeup, but also the economic makeup. What are the businesses that are going to be here? And who are the residents going to be? And what fields are they going to be in? The reason that I entered this race was to ensure that the community and the residents that chose Montgomery County are able to live, work, and continue their businesses here. So I ask for your vote on June 26th.
Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt. I would ask if you could tell us if there's any way we can reach you, if it's social media or something, just in case people want to follow up.
Yes, so on all social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, you can find me at Vote for Kenge, and the website is kengeflood.com. That's KENGEFLUDD.com.
Okay, we'll let you guys do that after the remarks.
Great. So again, my name is Brandy Brooks. I'm running for Montgomery County Council at Large. And I want to remind you that this group of folks, the group of women of color that I had a chance to be on a panel with on Thursday evening, these are your leaders in Montgomery County, and we need to recognize and support them. Most of you do not know that you have sitting in front of you the most endorsed man and the most endorsed woman in the at-large race. That it is an African man and an African woman who are the most endorsed folks in the at-large race. We need to hear this about ourselves and support our own leadership and spread the word about who we truly are in Montgomery County. The best way that you can reach us on the website, we're Brandy, I'm brandyformontgomery.com, BRANDY, the number 4, Montgomery.com, and on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Brandy for Moco, again, BRANDY, the number 4, MOCO.
Thank you for the shout out. Will Jawando, County Council at Large, there are 4 seats. There's only ever been one person of color in one of those 4 seats. Our outgoing county executive 32 years ago ran for this seat and didn't put his face on his literature because he knew it would be hard to get elected as a black man in the county. And we've come a long way, but we haven't. And you know, if we're going to have good paying jobs, we're going to have great schools in every part of the county, if we're going to have adequate transportation, take care of our young and our aging, have affordable housing, we're going to have leaders who understand these issues in a real way, who have lived them, who have life experience, who can pull on the cultural experience they have, who represent all the aspects of this community. And we're only going to do it if we turn out and vote. You know, Daniel and others, and Famana and I, and all of us up here have worked on trying to increase civic engagement and capacity and turnout in our communities because the squeaky wheel gets the oil. So we have to vote. We have to be engaged. You can find me. Everything is Will Jawando. So WILLJAWANDO, WillJawando.com, and Will Jawando on all social media. So thank you and look for your vote.
Padma Berry, running for state delegate for District 20, which is Silver Spring, Tacoma Park, White Oak, Hillendale area, Calverton area, Four Corners, Colesville, and parts of Pearland. Everyone has said what I would have said anyway, so I will go straight to the point. Do you, as an African or an African immigrant, want your children to go through the same struggles that you're going through? If the answer is yes, then stay home. But if you want your children, the future, to have it easier, come out and vote. Early voting is on Thursday, from Thursday the 14th to the 21st. Election day is June 26th. Come out and vote. The only way your issues will matter is if at the end of this election cycle, when they pull up those voting rolls, the names coming up shows that the African immigrant community showed up in numbers. Guess what happens? People start coming to your door, knocking on your door, wanting to know what matters to you, wanting to know, can you vote for me? Right now, when I go door knocking in my neighborhood, you know what people were telling me before? Oh my God, somebody came to the door. It's a travesty. People work, you pay for taxes in this country, in this state, in this county, in this district. You need to make your voice matter, because in the end, that's the only thing that will help you, your children, and the rest of your family in this community we call home. So I ask for your vote. Website, fatmatabarry.com, FATMATABARRIE.com. If you're on Instagram, it's @Barry4D20. Otherwise, Facebook, same Fatmata Barry for state delegate. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. A round of applause. Thank you so much for such an authentic conversation. I think we all felt that. I don't think anyone can leave here doubting if what you said is what you mean. And also thank you for just the candid information. I would ask Leslie if at the end of this to send out a blast with the information that you gave in terms of dates, just so everyone can remember, because things happen and sometimes you just, especially when it's so micro level, people tend to underestimate how much, but these are the things that really affect you. So it'd be good to have a reminder for everyone who can vote, if there's any information on, early registration pass, but if there's something that somebody can still do if they miss the dates or something.
Big point is same-day registration.
Same day,
So
okay.
you can go during the 14th through the 21st, you can register. All you need is a proof of where you live, a bill or anything with your address and name on it, and you can register and vote at the same day.
Yeah.
Or during early voting.
During early
After
voting,
the general.
yeah, during early voting.
Okay, well, we'll put that in the word so that everybody can know and blast that out. I wish you all the best of luck. I'm very inspired. I live in DC.